This week on the OneCast, we're joined by Jackie Dobrowolski. She's going to talk about how fishing heals.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
What's going on, OneCast fans? Welcome back to the OneCast. My mic sounds a little weird there. Did you turn something down? Did you turn my earplugs down, my ears down? I'm not. That's bent. Turn me to 3. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. That's better. That was a super professional introduction, but it's really weird. If you've never sat in, everybody comes in here is like, it's so weird to hear myself. But then if it gets turned down to where it's not where it's normally at and you don't hear yourself at your normal volume, it throws you off. So we had to get that straight because Ben's was a little too loud there. Yeah. We were traveling yesterday and did it on the road episode. So we had to get things worked back out. We're super excited for the episode this week, but as always, before we jump into it, we've got to shout all those folks out to make this possible. Starting with OneCast Fishing. You can head over to OneCastFishing.com, use the code TheOneCast to check out all one word. You save 10% off, get those snagless jigs, long neck hooks, weedless nets, all the soft plastics are back in stock. Are you still working on some?
Nighthawks.
I mean, he's got glitter all over his face. He's definitely been working.
The Nighthawks are in stock, and that's really what matters. No, I'm just kidding. But that is a great bait. I highly recommend grabbing some of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're done there. Where can we head?
Head on over to CarolinaWatersNC.com. Use the code TheOneCast. Get yourself some of that awesome apparel. Pete's rocking a hat. Ben's got one on right now. I got a work hat on, but you can get all that UPF gear that we keep preaching about to keep you protected from the sun. And bow season just started. You want to get yourself that Buck Stopper UPF 50 shirt. Help stay protected from the bugs, man. The Carolina Waters has been awesome this year. So do yourself a favor to use the code TheOneCast at CarolinaWatersNC.com. And then when we're done there, where can they head, Ben?
Well, then when you're out there, you get your baits now. You're protected in your skin. Now you got to protect your eyes. So you want to make sure you go over to Hobie Eyewear. Use our code. What's our code, Pete?
There isn't one. Use the link.
Use the link. Right, the link.
The link is the code.
The link is the code. The code is the link.
Use the link, and the link will be in the description. Save 15% there. Get your polarized sunglasses and get those floating flames when you're going down the lake and they blow off. You can stop the boat, go back around, and pick them up. And then finally, after you got everything ready to go fishing, your baits, your UPF, your sunglasses, you got to prep. So go on your phone right now. Go download the Deep Dive app. This app is going to take your fishing to the next level, especially your preparation. It's got its database. These guys went through hundreds or thousands of hours of tournament data and looked at where they caught fish, what baits they used, and they put that all in the database to help identify potentially the best locations and best baits that are in your body of water.
That's right. You know what? All three of us love hearing from all of you. Asking about where should I fish, what bait should I use, and please keep shooting us those messages. But like Ben said, go check out the wind effects, the water inflows, the bait tool, all the different applications that Deep Dive has for you. And when in doubt, we'll steer you right to the Deep Dive app as well. We'll send you the link to it if you're curious and you can't find it, but it's on all your guys' Play stores. So, now that we're all set,
go back and listen to our last couple episodes. We've covered all the forward-facing stuff going on. The other thing, we had a pretty good conversation yesterday. It was a live, and I'll probably drop it as a bonus episode just because I think we had a lot of good conversation. But Bass rolled back one of the rules decisions on the no information deal. So they made a rule that said you could get information up till January 1st, 2025. The anglers were not happy. And now, as of today, September 8th, all bodies of water for next year are off limits for information. So they rolled that back to how it used to be when it used to be schedule announce was when the no information rule started. They tried to change that, and it was not met well. So that's rolled back. Other than that, not a whole lot of news to talk about. Technology has been the debate. Jackie, who we have on to talk with us today, technology definitely does not impact fly fishing like it does bass fishing and some of the other walleye and all that. That's truly purist fishing, so to speak. You've got to know how to read the water. You've got to understand where those fish are going to be. So we're looking forward to getting into that with her, and also how fishing has saved her life, just like it saved all of ours and so many others that we've had on here. So we're looking forward to sharing her story with you. before we bring her on, Trey, anything you want to say?
No, I just want to give a huge shout out to the Tap Yard in Raleigh for hosting us yesterday. And by the time everyone's listening, this will be a week from then. But still, like, that was a great venue. We had a great opportunity to be a part of the Take a Warrior Fishing Warrior Fest up there. And, you know, their motto is Fishing Heals, right? It's on the back of your guys' jerseys. So we had a great time up there connecting with old friends and meeting new ones. So that was a really cool thing. It was really fun to watch Ben give that little toddler a hat, which was really cool because Pete was like, he's either going to have a freak out moment or he's going to love it. And he loved it, and then he had a freak out moment. So, but it was really cool. We had some friends drop down from Jersey, which they traveled down numerous times, and got to bring one of my old buddies up there with his daughter. So I just had a great time, man, and that's why the soundboard and everything was kind of wanky at first, but we got everything set up now. So other than that, and, you know, we were talking before the show, before we bring Jackie on, like, we were just talking about the new NFL rules, right? Like, how dynamic the NFL has been. And people are like, oh, man, you know, like, it's crazy in the fishing world. Man, it's crazy in all the world.
I just got to add one thing to that. Everyone kind of knows the new kickoff rule.
Yeah.
It looks kind of funky. There's been some returns today because we're recording this on Sunday. But the Broncos got 2 safeties, and to see a safety kickoff with the new rule, that was weird.
Oh, do they do it the same way?
It's like the punter or the kicker is like way back to the 25, and everyone else is lined up in the same position.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was kind of weird.
But I do want to say, like, all this gripe, and I get it, right? Everyone has a different position as a viewer, as an angler, as a business owner and stuff, all these rules. But the episode that we're getting ready to have right now, like, all that stuff goes out the window, right? We're talking about the outdoors and how it connects you with nature and how it helps you reflect and think about the things you value in life that are most important. And so I don't care about Ford Fishing Center. I don't care about these rules changes. This is the stuff that really matters, in my opinion. So I'm very excited to have Jackie join us today.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. None of that stuff really matters. What we're about to talk about today is what matters and helping people. So, yeah, let's get it rolling.
Let's do it.
Bring her on here. See if I messed this up. Nope. I did that right. Jackie, you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Did I butcher your name or did I do okay?
You did okay.
I tried. You know, we're professionals. It only took me 4 takes, I think, to get through it because I was in my own head. But really happy to have you join us. We're over here in North Carolina. I know you are out in Utah, correct?
Correct.
So the whole other side of the country, whole different world over there from us. But really appreciate you joining us and sharing your story and how fishing's helped you. So before we get rolling, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of talk about what exactly it is that you do in fishing, because it's pretty cool, the whole competitive fly fishing thing that you're into.
Yeah, my name's Jackie Dobrowolski. I live in Utah. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I started fly fishing I want to say in 2019. I learned how to fly fish in West Virginia. And the form that I learned how to fly fish was Euro nymphing specifically, which is the majority of competitive fly fish. And I didn't know that at the time. And I really loved it. I fell in love with it. I took to it really quickly. It was amazing. It definitely became an addiction. I can say that. So, you know, I read something on Facebook from another woman that is fly fishing. They were starting a women's fly fishing team to compete in the world stage. And I was like, you know what? I think I could do that. I had a little bit of competitive experience in high school and in college playing soccer. And I felt pretty confident in my ability to fish. So I figured, what the hell, I'll go for it. And I filled out an application, wasn't sure what was going to happen. It was right at the point of COVID, so it took a little while to get the ball rolling. But they had a women's clinic in Syracuse, New York. There was, I think, maybe 7 of us, total women. I instantly bonded with the other women. We had a blast up there. We got an Airbnb and all, stayed together, which was awesome. And the rest is kind of history. I went to one other clinic that was in North Carolina. That was pretty awesome too. Just different waters, different atmosphere. And then the next thing I did was drove cross country to Colorado to try and see how I would do in the national championship. I think there was about 20 women. I ended up taking third place. And just, I knew this was it for me. Like, competitive fly fishing was awesome. It gave me a rush. It made me feel connected to everybody else, connected to the earth, and haven't looked back since.
You always have so many questions.
Oh, I got a question.
Go for
Okay,
it.
go ahead, Ben.
I don't know if we want to get to this now or not, but what's involved with competitive fly fishing?
Yeah.
Because we're all bass anglers. Most of our audience are bass anglers. I mean, we've had cat fishermen on because it's a different. I assume it's a very different game than what we're used to.
So most of it is wade fishing on a river. There are bank sessions on lakes, and they also do lock style fishing in boats, which is when you're in like a little paddle boat, like a John boat, and you have a drove, which is sort of similar to how a parachute operates, and it drifts behind you. It slows your drift from the way that the water's moving. And you have to cast in the direction that you're drifting, so you can't essentially troll. So those are the typical three types of competitions you'll see. But whenever you're wade fishing, you'll get it's called a beat. It's a section of the river, typically anywhere from 100 to 200 yards long. And you have a certain time limit, anywhere from an hour and a half all the way up to 3 hours, to try and catch as many fish as you can. Once you catch the fish, there's a lot of rules with which you can and cannot use, how you net the fish even. You guys were talking about rules changing. Even in the fly fishing world, the rules have changed recently. You're not allowed to aerolize the fish anymore. Like, if you catch a real small fish, sometimes it's easier just to launch it up in the air and catch it with your net. Now the fish has to stay in the water the whole entire time, which makes it more challenging because the small ones are easier to get off. We don't use barbed hooks. They're barbless hooks, so
Okay.
they start shaking their head and they get off in a second.
Yeah.
But they measure the fish too. You take it over to a controller, somebody that's watching and making sure you're following the rules. They have a tray. They measure the fish. They record how long the fish is. Same thing in a boat, same thing on a bank session. And then you release the fish and keep going as fast as you can. Try to catch as many fish as you can. And then in the event of a tie, they take into consideration the measurements of the fish.
So you want more fish, but you also want some good fish. So it's finding that balance. I'm sure that's pretty cool. I like that.
I have no idea about fly fishing. All I know is it looks extremely challenging, but it's something that I want to do for sure. And you said you got to come to North Carolina and travel all over the place. But I'd like to rewind a little bit before we. Actually, you know what? Let's hang on to the tournament details right now. Like, what other? So, how does it work? Is it like bass fishing where you buy into like a tournament and then they have payouts down the board, or how does that work?
No, it is done by the U.S. fly fishing team. It's the adult team, which is essentially mainly composed of men, the men that started it. And you have to pay into a membership for that. It's $75 a year to be a member of Team USA. And then they put on competitions, and we're divided into regions. There's the West region, the South region, the Northeast region, and the Midwest. And you have to compete in your region that you live in. You don't typically have to pay to get into a competition unless it's held on private water, and there's sort of a fee in order to get onto the private water. And you gain points, so it works on a point system. And then after a year, they rank you as far as that point system is concerned. And then the top 5 anglers are chosen to represent the U.S. team on the world level. And then the top, for the women, the top 10 are on the national team. So there's a national team and then there's a world team. And the world team competes obviously at the world level in a lot of different countries. This past April, it was April. Or was it June? Regardless, they were in the Czech Republic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were fishing behind castles. I couldn't go because the year before I had given birth. I was 8 months pregnant at the time of the competition, so I decided to sit out and let the team go without me, and then they kept the same team. So I just, watched from Facebook. My team fished behind castles, and it was awesome, and they did a great job. But I hope that answered your question.
No, it totally did. I mean, it's definitely not like
it's totally different.
It's totally different.
The only thing I like, Jack, when you describe it, the only thing that kind of reminds me of, I don't know, I might be talking about my rear end here, but I had a buddy who used to do a lot of pool, like 8-ball pool or whatever it is. And they had rankings, and you move up rankings and all, or maybe chess too, kind of. I think
a lot of other sports, but just in the fishing world, it's vastly different. Are you guys when it comes to the species, for us bass nerds, we're like spotted bass, largemouth bass, and smallmouth bass. Is it multiple species of trout, or is it only one?
It's multiple species of trout. So your typical rainbow trout, brown trout, brook trout. In the west region, I even saw a competition recently that was counting bull trout, even though it was going to be a rare catch. And then mountain fish. It's a type of white fish.
Out in Washington, I know a lot of lakes and stuff, I assume rivers and all, but they've got the sockeye and landlocked salmon and all that. Like, if you catch one, does that technically count? If you manage to get that big in?
It depends on the competition, like whatever they specify the rules. If you're going to be fishing somewhere like the steelhead might be running, they might count the steelhead as well. So I think they just take into consideration the time of year and what fish are going to be in there. But they do stick to like the salmonid species, which are all
interesting.
Yeah. So is there an age limit? Like, do you have to be like 18 years or older, or do they allow like kids to do it as well?
There is a youth team actually that just won the gold medal in Czech Republic, which was awesome. They're fantastic. I'm not entirely sure the rules for that. I assume you have to be under 18 to compete. Once you're over 18, then it's the adult team or the women's team. And then after you're 55 and over, there's I always forget the name of it. I want to call it the senior team, but it's not the senior team. It'll come to me later, I'm sure.
It's probably like, I'm sure they picked something that didn't make them feel as old.
It's interesting. So I'm on the Cortland line out of Cortland, New York, pro staff, and I love their braided fishing line. But they are huge in the fly fishing world. Do you use any of their product at all, or are you sponsored by different companies, or is that a thing even?
So individually, I'm not sponsored by anybody. Some of the other women are. As a team, Fully Mill sponsors us. They have some tippet, and I do like their tippet, but I started on Cortland tippet, and I still live by Cortland tippet. I get a discount from them, so I loaded up, I want to say a year and a half ago on tippet, and I'm still using it to this day. It's just fantastic. And
it is.
A lot of my lake lines are Cortland lines too. So when you lake fish, you have to fish at different depths. So the fly fishing line that you use sinks at a certain rate. And so you have to have, I think I have maybe 7 different lines, and they're all Cortland lines. They helped me out a lot with that. I had a good deal.
Do you tie your own flies?
I do. I do. I learned around the same time I started fly fishing. It wasn't pretty. They weren't pretty flies by any means. Definitely a lot better now. But it's more cost efficient to tie your own flies.
For sure. Man, what a whole different world it is. But I heard it's probably one of the most relaxing styles.
It's like a whole different world, but it's not. She's talking about like having 7 different lines for fishing a lake. And like, are you carrying 7 rods, or is it like spools and you're just changing spools on the reel? Or
I just have 1 rod, so I change different spools. But a lot of the other people that have been fishing longer than me have multiple rods, and they're all rigged up, ready to go with a rod holder on the bank that they can easily change out for time purposes. I'll get there one day. It's a very expensive sport.
Yeah.
We
understand that.
Whether or not it's like a little green fish or a beautiful rainbow trout, it doesn't matter. It still costs you thousands of dollars.
Because I'm sure each rod is specifically designed to throw a certain type of weighted fly or a certain type of fly. And it's the same. It sounds like it's the same game.
well, first of all, congratulations on making the USA Team USA at the national level, right? But let's you want to dive into the journey?
Yeah.
So you talked about originally being from Pennsylvania. You and Pete know each other from back in the day. Can you kind of talk about how you grew up and your journey into outdoors?
Yeah. So I grew up with a single mother. My dad passed away when I was 2 in a car accident. So she raised my brother and I, and she put herself through school to find a career to make a better life for us. And honestly, I have to attribute some of my love for the outdoors with some of the guys in the neighborhood that I grew up with, because I mean, all growing up, all we did was go outside and play in the woods. Like I said, my mom was busy a lot of the time, so that's where I found myself. Grew up on, I don't know, I'd say like a mile from the Ohio River. And we would ride our bikes down to the river and just, grab a can of worms and see what we could do. I think probably when I became a teenager, sort of like a double-edged sword. The guys in my neighborhood introduced me to like my love of the outdoors, but we all sort of came from dysfunctional homes and had our own problems and learned to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. And as I look back, I can think that as a teenager, that's when the journey began for me. Down the hole of drugs and alcohol, but at the same time, like I always stayed connected to the outdoors with fishing and hunting. Just white-tailed deer hunting in Pennsylvania. I think it was probably the calm in my storm. Just a lot of chaos in my world, and being outside sort of brought the calm.
Yeah. I mean, I remember we all would end up at those river gatherings with bonfires and lots of beer usually and other things, field parties, all of that stuff. And it was, how we all dealt with whatever it was we were going through at the time.
Normal teenage
stuff for a lot of us, but then there were others that had more going on than we did, and we didn't know it at the time. But like Jackie said, some of them were coming from a little bit tougher circumstances, and they were using it probably for different reasons than some of us other folks were. Looking back, it's we were all doing the same thing, but for different reasons. And I remember those nights at the river and at some people's houses and stuff, and all of that. And then progressing from there, did that kind of self-medication continue as you got older?
Yeah, I would say it was a learned behavior on my part at an early age, and then life did what life does, and it showed up on its own terms. And I don't know if it was the drinking and the partying that put me in the situations where things just spiraled more out of control, and then also, being taken advantage of at the hands of other people too. when I was 19, I was raped by my cousin while I was babysitting for his kids. And basically whatever grip I still had over my life after that, it would just went downhill really fast, spiraled really fast. And I did press charges, and it sort of like drug that whole ordeal out for me for over a year, like kept it so fresh in my mind. I'm glad that I did it, and I had to testify, against my own cousin, but it did give me some closure. But at the time, like I couldn't see that. I was just, wanting to numb everything away. I didn't want to feel a thing. Around that time was, I think, I started using prescription pills. Prior to that, I was actually 15 the first time I ever tried heroin. So I was dating a guy. So part of my story is my dad died at a young age, when I had a young age, and I sort of chased that male affection, my whole life. And I would date anybody that would give it to me, any sort of affection I would get, whether or not they were a good person, whether or not they were good to me. So the guy I was dating, he was way older than me. I was 14, he was 18, and he lived next to somebody that started selling heroin. And I think when I was 15, he's like, "Hey, do you want to give this a try?" And I just wanted to make him happy. I just wanted to make sure that I still got that love from him. It was a very unhealthy, very toxic relationship. And I tried it the first time, just snorting it. I got deathly ill. I vomited everywhere. I was like sweating profusely. I had a headache. I felt like crap. I was like, I'm never doing this again. The next weekend, he asked, "Do you want to do it again?" And I was just chasing his affection and his love and said, "Yeah, let's do it again." That went on for a couple of months. Eventually, I was able to get out of that relationship when I was 16. And I didn't touch heroin again until I was, I think, 21. But in between that time frame was a lot of self-medicating with prescription drugs, alcohol, weed, anything I could get my hands on. And I think I even used sex too at that time, like just to numb whatever feelings I could. And when I reached 21, that was after the sexual assault happened. That's when I found heroin again, and it just numbed everything I didn't want to feel. I had some childhood friends that were involved with it as well, so it was easy access. And for the next 6 years, I was a slave to heroin and also alcohol. I still would drink alcoholically to the point of blacking out. I just didn't like who I was. I didn't like any of the feelings that I had. I wanted a different life. And, for whatever reason, I thought, the drugs and alcohol would get me there. I went to rehab 6 different times. The first couple of times I didn't know that I had a problem. I thought I was still in control, typical denial. But my mother had found out and threatened to kick me out of the house, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So just to keep my place of living, I went to rehab, I think, 2 times for that. Didn't go with any intentions on quitting, obviously, just to get back to doing what I was doing. I did it once to save a job. And maybe 1 or 2 more times to get back into my mom's house. And then the very last time, I was at the point where I was completely depressed. I was losing my apartment. I was going to be homeless. I didn't have a job. I got fired. So I didn't really have any money to sustain my habit. And I contemplated killing myself. And I had tried this once before. I think I was about 21 where I tried to kill myself, and one of the Crescent Township police officers intercepted me, took me to the psych ward. I was able to sign myself in. I didn't have to be committed, mainly because of the outdoors. I wanted to still be able to own like a gun, and I knew that if you get 302, you wouldn't be allowed to own any sort of weapon. So the outdoors sort of gave me that. I still wanted to die, but I don't think I wanted to die, but at the same time, I didn't want to die. I don't know if that makes sense. I didn't want to keep living the way that I was. So fast forward to, this last time I was 2013, I was almost home. I was on the verge of becoming homeless. I decided that I wasn't going to try to kill myself. I was going to try and give sobriety and AA and whatever rehab. I was going to actually listen and give it my all. So I went to Gateway, which is in Ellicott, Pennsylvania. I've been there a couple of times before. And then once the drugs left my system, I'm still pretty cloudy, but those feelings, they talk about how you numb and suppress your feelings for so long that if you can imagine what it's like pushing down a spring, you just keep pushing it down and holding it down. That minute that you move your hand, that spring is going to bounce back up like crazy. That's sort of what happened to my emotions whenever I was in rehab that last time. And I didn't know what to do with them, so I was actually going to sign myself out, and I was going to jump off the overpass on 79 and kill myself. That was I had a plan. That's what I was going to do. And they're really into giving back what was freely given to you, and NA and AA, the 12-step fellowships. So there was a guy who had some clean time, and he came into the rehab and was sharing his story. And for whatever reason, his story just, it gripped me up. And it's like, listen, if he can do it, you can do it too. So I decided to stay one more night in rehab. And then the next night, I just wanted to stay one more night in rehab until I got far enough to where I actually was like, okay, I think I can do this. So they suggested that I go to a halfway house. And always in the back of my mind, I never thought that I was as bad as everybody else. That's sort of, what happens. You just don't think you're as bad as everybody else. I didn't think that I needed a halfway house. But at the same time, I had nowhere to live, and it was Christmas. I spent Christmas in rehab. I had nowhere to go. There was snow on the ground. I didn't want to go live under a bridge. So I started the application process to go to a halfway house. I ended up getting into one that is in Washington, Pennsylvania. It's called Turning Point for Women. I went for 6 months. That place saved my life. The woman there also was in recovery. She had so many years, I don't remember, 30 years sober. And she wanted to give back by opening up a halfway house. And then the next suggestion to me after the 6 months I did in the halfway house was to go to a 3/4 house, which is basically a step down. When you're in a halfway house, you have to, you can only go out on passes that are approved. You're pretty much locked down every night. You can go to meetings with other girls, but you come back by a curfew. We all ate together. We did therapy together, and then we also had to find outside therapy. It was a pretty stringent process, but like I said, it saved my life. So the next step was the 3/4 house, which is you can come and go as you want. You can get a job. You still have to attend meetings. You still have a curfew. It sort of eases you back into society. So I had always had a love for the outdoors. It, like I said, brought a calm to my storm. So when I had to get a job, I started looking, and I wasn't able to go back into the restaurant industry. They suggested that I try something new. and they were building a Field and Stream in Washington, which is like a hunting and fishing camping store. And I was like, perfect, that's right up my alley. So I applied, I got the job, and I spent the next year working there, which, just kept me connected to my love of the outdoors. I started doing some fishing locally in Washington, anything I could to get out. And then it came down to being my turn to give back what was freely given to me. So I started taking some of the other women with me to go fishing and see if it was for them, if they loved it, if it gave them the same peace that it gave me. Some of them took to it, some of them didn't. But they say it's for them, but it helps me, immensely in the process by helping other people by doing what I love, teaching them how to fish, getting outside, being close to the water, just being connected to nature, feeling the wind, everything that, you don't have control over, but you don't have control over it for a good reason. It's Mother Nature. I ended up developing my higher power around that. They suggest that you get something that's stronger than you. A lot of people are connected to God, to Christianity, anything that they, that works for them. There's a lot of different things out there. It was one thing that I struggled with in my sobriety was what my higher power was going to be. And I definitely believe that there's a God out there. I grew up in a Lutheran church, and it taught me a lot of things that I still hold, value with. And then there's the outdoors, and there's Mother Nature, which is just so powerful. Sometimes it's, it's scary. There's a lot of scary stuff that happens out there, but I think it's all for a bigger purpose. The universe is way bigger than, anybody ever imagined. And, just letting the universe have control and the Mother Nature have control, and then trusting in God. And those are sort of the things that have got me to this point in my life.
Let's revisit. First and foremost, thank you for sharing all of that. And there's obviously a lot more details, but I want to go back to when you were 14, and you tried your first hard hit of a hard drug, and now we see like in different states like marijuana and stuff is legal, but everyone's got personal opinions on that. But what did you see yourself? Did you, as a teenager, what was your dream in life? Where did you want to see yourself as a teen? Like, did you want to be a doctor, lawyer, like those typical jobs, or where did you see yourself?
To be honest, I don't think I knew myself enough to have a dream of my own. I was influenced by what my family wanted, what society wanted, which only made me further depressed and anxious because I didn't even have any goals in mind. I didn't know who I was, what I wanted. I can tell you that society and my family wanted me to get a 4-year college degree. My mom was a school teacher. I thought maybe being a school teacher would, be for me. So, that's what I wanted because that's what everybody else wanted for me.
Yeah, well, you're kind of a teacher now. I think on a different level, but probably more important. I think that teaching is important.
I just want to take a moment to point to something societally that you talk about, and that's probably the best I've ever heard it put. But we pressure our children and other people's children and people that we don't know into making a decision on what they want to do with their lives when they're a teenager. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Jackie. I never heard it put that way. I never thought about it, but it's exactly true. We don't know ourselves well enough at a young age to truly. I mean, let me go back a little bit. There are some folks that do. There's some people that figure out what I want to do. They do it. They're happy doing it for their whole life. But generally speaking, most of us have. I'm almost 40 years old, and I don't even know if I know myself well enough to know that I'm doing what I actually want to be doing. I enjoy what I do, but is it truly what my purpose is? I don't know. So I just want to call attention to that because I think that's probably the best I've ever heard it put. We don't know ourselves, and we listen to those around us and what they tell us is best for us without it actually being best. And when people ask about why kids are changing majors and stuff now or flip-flopping careers, so many people we know our age, we're all relatively the same age, have changed careers 2, sometimes 3 times, right? And it's because we didn't know. We listened to what people said we should be doing. We tried that, and we were like, this sucks. I don't want to do this, so we did something different. And I just appreciate that nugget of knowledge. I mean, there's a lot of nuggets of knowledge coming out of this, but that one, for any parents out there, we're not trying to tell you how to raise your kids, but take that into account when you're trying to force them to do something and they're telling you they don't really want to do it.
How many people, when you were going through, so it is amazing to me that you were able to, be addicted, still living in the home with your mother. Obviously, she was very busy and stuff, so I don't want to take anything away from her. But of all the people that you considered your quote-unquote friends that maybe weren't addicted to any sort of illicit drugs or anything like that, how many of them tried to help you knowing that you were addicted?
There was actually a few. My best friend in high school, her name was Vivian. She really tried to help me the most, and she tried a few times. Obviously, I didn't want the help, and we had already buried one of our friends to a heroin overdose, and it got to the point where she said, in order to protect herself, she couldn't be friends with me anymore because she didn't want to watch another friend get buried. So she stepped away, and our relationship sort of ended there. Maybe a couple of other people. I didn't have like a huge friend circle towards the end. It was just the people that I would use with that obviously didn't have my best interest at heart.
Sure.
That's the example I can think of.
And did you have a lot of people, like looking back now, did you have a lot of people that turned their back on you after they found out you needed help?
I did. My family all tried to help me too, like my uncles, my brother, cousins. But at the same time, it wasn't until I had absolutely nobody. My brother wouldn't let me step foot on his property. I came to get some possessions, and I had to stand in the street at the end of the driveway. I was not allowed on his property. My uncle told me that I wasn't allowed to call my 80-year-old grandmother until I had 3 months clean because I was going to kill her. That all the stress I was putting her through, we were going to kill her. And I think, like, realizing I had nobody because I was just hurting everybody else around me was sort of something that helped me wake up and realize what I was doing.
It's and we all either know people, other folks who experience all like Jackie, or know family members who had someone went through kind of what you went through. And it's a very difficult, challenging thing. And I think the only thing I like, and it sounds like listening to your story too, like it's the old proverb, you can lead a horse to water, but sometimes you can't make him drink. And until the person can reach that point, and fortunately, Jackie, you reached that point alive, and so many folks, unfortunately, succumb to their demons, and it, that was, who knows why. I just think that God probably sent whoever that man was to tell us that story there that night, just to get you to stay one more night, and start the process. So, yeah.
And I just want to point, like, it's a stark reminder. I say it all the time, on the show. We keep it pretty PG, but I say everybody goes through shit. And you don't know the shit that somebody's going through, right? Because this whole story she's telling, like, we had mutual friends and we were at parties together and hanging out. I had no idea. Zero idea. Now, I wouldn't say Jack and I were close. We knew similar people. We hung out at some of the same places, but like no idea all that stuff was going on. And it's just for me, it's like a reaffirmation that you don't know what people were going through. And I probably wasn't the best person back then. And looking back, I'm like, man, wish I would have asked more. Like, how are you doing today? Instead of just But you're a kid. We're all kids. We don't know any better. But
I mean, we were talking about this yesterday. Like,
it's just tough.
so a lot of times you don't know what people are going through, and even if they're going through something, and like that's the worst thing they've gone through in their life. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Like there's no point in playing like comparison games because it's it's
Trauma's trauma.
I think so. I'm going to make a statement and then I'm going to ask a question. And this is more of a message from you to those watching and listening. But I think childhood is probably the loneliest time in your life. I truly do.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody understands you. You're trying to define yourself as a human being. Just because you go to school and have friends and stuff like that, each one of those kids are going to do the exact same thing in a different way. But it's really, really lonely, especially being a young female growing up trying to figure out who she's going to be in life. That's a very lonely time. I think we forget that. I think as parents, I have teenage children, and they're trying to define who they are right now. And I feel like I'm not giving them enough attention or giving them too much attention. But you just got to find a healthy balance with it. But I think being a kid is probably the loneliest time in your life. I truly do. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. That being said, you're in a position where you're at right now because something put you here. Right, having this conversation right here could absolutely save somebody from jumping off an overpass or whatever the case may be, or taking the next hit. But if you were standing next to yourself as a 14, 18-year-old girl right now, and you wanted to give help to that person that was struggling, what do you wish would have been, if you were to have it any other way, somebody that's seeing this go on in someone's lives right now, what would you tell them to do?
Oh, that's a tough question. I honestly don't think that I had a true, deep, intimate, emotional relationship with anybody at that age to where I felt comfortable enough to share my own feelings and to help me process what I was going through. And to help teach me healthy coping mechanisms for the stuff that I was feeling, and to tell me that it was okay to feel the way that I was feeling, instead of to turn around and try and run from it because I felt like it was wrong. I think that probably would be the best help, or like even somebody to realize from the sidelines that there was something else going on within me. Be like, hey, you might need somebody to talk to or to share with, and if I'm not it, let me find you somebody that is it.
So I'm sitting here as a parent. You're a parent, right? We either have children or we have friends with children or whatever. We get so consumed. Your mom was super busy. We all get busy and stuff like that. But as a mother, what would your message be to those mothers out there and fathers that their life is so busy, or they're single mothers or whatever? How do they find what would you say a best way to have a healthy balance between paying the hell attention to your kids and then give them the autonomy to define themselves as a young adult?
That's a tough one too.
That's why, I mean, there's no book on this shit, right? Like, we are writing every single chapter every day we live. And I think that's why so many young adult parents or teenage kids and parents, they're looking for answers that sometimes just don't exist. And the only way they really exist is through experiences like Jackie has, or I have, and you guys have, right? So it's not the right answer, but it may be a better answer than what they already have.
So let me just say that my mom didn't come from a good home either. So her parenting, she taught herself. She came from 12 siblings. 8 of them were taken into foster care and adopted out because the home was not a good home. And so everything she learned, she taught herself, and she was doing the best she could with what she had. And she made a better life for us. And she didn't have a lot of emotional support. She didn't have any emotional support growing up. I didn't like that. She gave me what she could, and I take that and everything else that I've learned along the way, to try and help my son as he grows. And my mom wasn't there emotionally because she wasn't taught. She didn't have the capability for it. I'm an emotional person, and that's what I needed growing up. And we didn't know that until my life turned out the way that it did. I wasn't able to express it either. So I'm sort of trying to break generational curses by continuing to move forward and learn from past experiences with my son that I didn't. I hope that he does the same if he has a baby of his own. But my mom also had to do those things and had to take time away in order to provide for my brother and I. I guess looking back, for her having to do that, that's fine. But maybe find somebody else that can provide that emotional support system if she can't. Realize that she needs help and ask for it. That's something I struggle with too. I don't have to ask for help, but I'm learning.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we all struggle with that. We all think we can do it all on our own. I actually got talked to at work the other day it was a role play thing, but it was like, hey, you can ask for help. Everything we asked to get done, you said you were the one handling it. Who's doing what you're supposed to be doing? It's like, yeah, you're right. That's just how I'm built, is to take and take and take. And eventually we don't even realize we have so much that we're not providing what we need to be providing to those around us, whether it's family, whether it's work, whether it's home, whatever it is, anything. So I think that's a really good point, is not being afraid to ask for help. And then generational curses, or you hear generational trauma used a lot. Like, it's a real thing, and there's people. None of us are academics. We're not giving psychological advice or anything.
I actually know a little bit about this,
but you hear about it a lot, right? And there's people that scoff at it, but you look at how somebody's raised, and then they raise somebody, and bits and pieces of that stay. They might improve on certain areas, but there's things they don't know, and it builds and it builds and it builds over time. So
there's a lot of truth in that. It's I think the academic term is transgenerational trauma, and they've done a lot of studies with the Holocaust survivors, the DNA change when they had offspring and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting how things get ingrained. Yeah.
I think you're generationally breaking the cycle by doing exactly what we're doing right here, because hopefully, you say you have a son, right?
Yes.
Hopefully your son, when he gets of age, listens to this, make sure you share the link with him. But more important,
her son's at the age right now. I've been seeing her Facebook post where he's actively attempting to kill himself every day, climbing up on boxes.
But you know what? Like, that stigma of some people will shake their head and wave off somebody like, oh, he or she's just a product of their environment. Like, it's not important. No, you are a product of your environment. I don't care where you come from. And it's like Pete said, you have those little isms of the environment you come from, and much like, not on the drug side, but I could have took two different paths from childhood, right? Growing up in a criminal ass family like I did, and I could have went down that path of least resistance, but the outdoors and war really helped me out. It's sad to say that, what I mean? But war helped me out, but we tend to lose connection with the things that we truly love the most, and it's not till later in life that we figure out, man, that really helps me identify what I value. So when you were going through all that, let's say trauma, up into the halfway house and three-quarter house, did you completely disconnect from the outdoors the whole time?
No, I did not. I still stayed connected. I would still make trips down to the river to fish. And I can't really answer why, just besides trying to seek some sort of normalcy or peace in my life, and that's always where I got it. So I would find myself, wandering back down there, even lost in my own abyss.
Yeah.
Did you when you were there, those trips you would take down to the river, wherever you ended up, did you find calm in the chaos at this point in time? Were you able to kind of shut down everything that had been screaming, all of the negative, all of the I need to do this? Were you able to find some peace in those moments, albeit probably fleeting, but at least for a time?
Absolutely, every single time. it's I can't explain it, but it's like the task is at hand is to catch a fish. You want to present something to the fish in a manner that they want to take it. And it's like, I get so obsessed and so focused on doing that the rest of the world falls away. I don't worry about anything else. And that's the piece that I get. It's the rest of the world fall away and you can focus on just that.
You talk about the purpose there to catch a fish, you're motivated, and then the dedication to purpose, motivation, dedication, focusing. Like it's not a big task to go catch a fish. I mean, we make a big deal out of it. How complicated it is to go catch a fish.
She obviously has thousands of hours equipment.
Yeah, exactly. It's it can be a very expensive hobby, but like on the essence of it, it's you want to catch this animal that's living in the water. Yes. Humans have done it for millions of years, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of years, but regardless of, and you just got to focus right on that. So you just,
You were at the halfway house. It was when you transitioned to 3/4. Was it when you transitioned to 3/4 house? You were able to get a job, or was it still in the halfway? Is that when you started?
No, it was when I was in the 3/4 house. I actually had an old soccer injury that I had to get surgery for. So I was on crutches for like 6 weeks at the tail end of my halfway house. Typically, you're able to, but of my circumstances, I wasn't able to. Yeah. But I can tell you that my mom came to visit me. She took me out on pass at the halfway house. I was in a walking boot or a cast or something. And we went down to Hopewell Park with 2 fishing rods and went down there. And she sort of reminded me, hey, like, you can do this. This is what brings you peace. Like, just keep doing it. I'll never forget that for doing it.
Was that like an aha moment? Like this is what I need to do whenever I'm feeling unsettled or uneasy. When I need to stop my mind from racing. And was that moment for you? Like, okay, this is it. This is my, for lack of a better term, you said it's like your addiction now. Is that kind of where that flipped from, heroin to, okay, I can use this in place of that when I need that calm?
Yeah, that's exactly it. They say that at whatever age you pick up a drug or alcohol, that you stop, like your brain stops aging from that point on. You stay that age in your brain. So I was probably 11 or 12 years old the first time I tried smoking weed and drinking. So if you think about it, when I was fishing with my mom, I was like at a 12-year-old mindset as far as what I knew how to emotionally regulate. And how to just be a productive member of society and how to deal with the emotions of life. And she took me fishing and it made me feel good and it made me able to regulate my emotions. And I knew that it was going to be one of my healthy coping mechanisms because I was learning all about it in the halfway house. So yeah, I think that's what it was. That's what it gave me.
You made it all the way. We didn't talk about it. Did you make it all the way through high school?
I did. I made it all the way through high school, and then I went to college. And I didn't make it far in college. I did 1 semester in Clarion University, and I got so depressed on drugs that I dropped out.
Yeah, I was going to ask because you talked about your soccer injury and playing in high school. I think college. So I'm going to assume, the outdoors fly fishing has helped, but I guess sports was not it didn't work for you, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, because everything works different for other people. Some people will get real into sports and go play ball or something. So what was it maybe about soccer that didn't work for you?
Looking back, I had a really good high school team, and we went to the state championship, and I was probably like a mid-level player. I wasn't on the varsity starting list. Like I would get subbed in occasionally. And it just sort of reiterated the feeling of not feeling good enough and not being good enough and not having somebody there that could teach me how to be better or to show me how to be better, because we only had, two coaches with 30-some girls, and there wasn't enough time to go around for everybody. And I think maybe that's why sports didn't do it for me. I still love to play soccer. I enjoy it, but it just doesn't give me the same peace. I still compare myself to others, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you talked about it earlier. The attention and affection wasn't there, even in the realm of soccer, right? And we see that a lot with kids these days in schools. There's one teacher to 30-something kids in a classroom, and every single kid's learning style is different. All of our learning styles are different, and so my message to parents out there, and I need to do a better job too, is like pay attention, right? Like I gave my kids personality learning tests that we do in the Army to identify the way that they learn the best and soak up information, and that led to my son being homeschooled, my daughter going to a school, right? Just because they learn differently. I think it's about the best I can do right now until I retire. But so yeah, you didn't have that affection, and then you went off to college, and then it was kind of like, yeah, college isn't for me type deal. What did you choose to go for, just out of curiosity?
I wanted to be a high school English teacher. That's what I went for.
Okay. Yeah, knowing that's a struggle in itself as a profession. But you definitely are a teacher now. So, do you guys know anything?
Okay.
So let's fast forward. So you got to the 3-quarter house. You're working at Field and Stream. At what point were you like, I'm leaving this place?
Field and Stream?
Yeah, I mean, just Pennsylvania in general.
Just what in general?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. So, so I was working at Field and Stream, and I just wasn't, I felt like I could do more. Like I wanted to do more with my life. So then I got a job working at Citizens Bank, and I became a banker and a bank teller. I worked there for about 1.5 years, and same feeling. I was like, I feel like I can do more. I feel like there's more out there for me. And I sort of had such low self-esteem growing up that I never thought I could do anything more. But now that I was sober, and now that I had a life and was enjoying things, I knew that I could do more. So I applied to nursing school, and I completed nursing school. I actually graduated valedictorian of my class, which is crazy to me because that 14-year-old girl that didn't know what she wanted to be when she grew up or know anything about herself. Like I didn't think I was smart. I didn't have that capacity, but I sold myself short. So I become a nurse, and I love it. I like helping people. It gives me purpose. I'm there emotionally helping people as well too. Whenever somebody's in the hospital or going through a physical ailment, a lot of times their emotions are wrapped up into it too. And I can't tell you how many times I've had an elderly gentleman in there that I share my fishing stories with, and break out the phone and share my fish pictures, and just the smile that I see on their face, it gives me so much. It's an awesome feeling. Usually the older gentlemen, they love it. And let's see, so then COVID comes around, and they're offering to pay travel nurses like $5,000 to go to New York City. And I was at a point in my life where I was able to go and help more and go do more things and travel. And I think I always wanted to travel. I knew that I didn't think Pennsylvania was going to be it for me. I knew there was more out there. Same thing like with my career. I knew I could do more. So I go to New York City, and I'm working in New York City for a bit, and then I go back to Brooklyn, and then I go to Austin, Texas, and these are all on travel assignments. Then I realized that there's more than just Pennsylvania out there, and there's more things that I can do out there. Like I went fishing when I was in Manhattan. Like I was on the subway with probably a 9-foot long pole, like sitting next to me, going to Coney Island to try and catch some stripers. Not catching them, you know that. But I tried.
Everyone's holding their Starbucks lattes, and you got a 9-foot rod in the subway. I love it.
Yes, it was something to be seen. I'll tell you that. And
they're like, "Who's this? Who is this redneck?"
You know, there's a couple anglers in New York City. Like a few years ago, someone bought some baits from Manhattan.
Oh, really?
So I don't know where they're fishing at. Maybe the sewer system.
Yeah, maybe call Ike and Owen.
Yeah, and I always took fishing with me wherever I went. I would try to catch. When I was in Austin, Texas, it was warm water species. And then, let's see, I wanted to do more. Everything, it comes back to addiction, like never being satisfied or always wanting more. But like at the same time, I knew that I could do more. So the type of nursing that I was doing was like telemetry, medical search, nursing. And I wanted to learn how to be an ICU nurse. When I was in New York City, they were putting people on what's called ECMO. It's extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. And basically COVID was shutting everybody's lungs down. And it's a machine that essentially sucks your blood out, puts blood into it, and then puts it back into your body. And it's a very specialized care in nursing. So I got a job at Allegheny General Hospital and learned how to do that. And I worked there for a year until I was on until the national championship for fly fishing rolled around. And I needed to make more money in order to be able to compete and to travel. So I went back to travel nursing. And I got a job in Du Bois, which is central Pennsylvania, being an ICU nurse. And the guy my husband, who I'm married to now, we had been friends for probably about 6 years. I met him in AA at an AA meeting. We were friends, and we started to, share interest in one another. And he came with me to the national championship in 2022. It was April. We drove from Pennsylvania to Basalt, Colorado. I competed. I got third place. And then from Basalt, Colorado, he had a job interview in Roosevelt, Utah. He's a truck driver. He worked in the oil and gas field in Pennsylvania with a hazardous stamp hauling condensate. So out here, crude oil is really big. It's like thick candle wax. And they pay pretty big money, and he hauls it over a mountain pass. He hauls like a double trailer. It's called a super tanker. So it's like 2 trailers. So needless to say, the interview he went off really well. We continued our journey, went back to Pennsylvania, and they offered him the chance to come out to Utah, and they gave him housing, and he could still keep his job. And he came out here, and I actually went and competed in the women's first ever World Fly Fishing Championship in Norway while he was out here doing this. And my plan was to come out here and travel nurse once I got back and still keep my place and just to see how things went. And that's what we did. I came out to Salt Lake City. I got a couple travel jobs out here. Would drive to Roosevelt, where we live now, to just see if I liked it. Fell in love with the place. The fly fishing's great. It's really remote. It's like almost like living back in time.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it. It's just we're so cut off from the world that it's like a small farm town. Family values are strong, and everyone's sort of like connected outdoor in nature. So I found I feel like I fit in.
Culture is everything. I mean, the only other place that I can go that's really in the Stone Age is southern Afghanistan, but we don't want to go there. The fly fishing sucks. Right. But
Did you try?
I did fish there, but I don't know what those fish are called. And I don't know. Let me ask you this: so you've had an amazing journey, and you're going to continue to have one. But it's interesting to me. So you join the medical field, and everybody knows that going through any sort of medical training isn't without its challenges, and you're also exposed to drugs all the time. So during that journey, anytime did you reach some road bumps that you're like, oh man, this is too hard? Did it take you back to a dark place at all, or were you able to? Obviously, you're able to succumb to that, but some of the challenges. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
That's a good question, because the medical field has a view on addiction that it's not held in a good light, obviously, but it's frowned upon. And being an ICU nurse, a lot of the patients are intubated and sedated specifically with fentanyl, which is basically heroin. And I can tell you that when I started working at the bank, and I would have like up to $150,000 in my little bank vault, like, of course there were times where I was like, how can I get away with stealing this money? But eventually, like, I just put into perspective that it wasn't mine. It was like, it became like monopoly money. Like, it had no value. It did nothing for me. It was just a part of the job. And then I took that mentality into nursing as well. And I was super embarrassed to tell anybody that I worked with that I was a recovering heroin addict. And I didn't tell anybody. And I still don't tell many people that I'm a recovering heroin addict, because I'm the first person that they look at if things go wrong or if there's an issue. And just from, having that mentality of the monopoly money, like the medications that I deal with, like they just don't hold, they don't have the same, they don't have the same hold on me that they would have before, because they just, I don't know, they're like, it's like monopoly medication. I don't know how else to describe it. It just doesn't have.
It's like it's not real. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like not real, and it's there to help somebody else. Yeah, I think I still sometimes struggle with the emotional aspect of working in the nursing industry, like being stressed out and learning how to emotionally regulate and use healthy coping mechanisms and not getting burned out. I think that's harder than being around the drugs, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Do you ever go back to that spot in Pennsylvania that you went with your mother fishing that one time? Have you been back there since?
I have not been back there since, because the fishing there sucks, but I would definitely go back there, like, nostalgically, and maybe go hike or just sit on the water's edge. And I would take my son there in a heartbeat, for sure.
Yeah, I'll take you there when we go to Pennsylvania.
I'll go. I mean, I was just.
Oh, I know you go, but that's like the definition of a gargle.
Yeah. Is your mother still with us, or?
Yeah, my mom, she's actually flying out on it's coming Sunday, next Sunday, to watch Colton, my son, while I go compete for the national championship again. At a little different point in my life. I'm not going to hold the same, like, third place standard that I got before, but, I'm just going to be happy to be there. But I'm really grateful that my mom could come out and do that for us. But she likes to fish too. She doesn't have the same value of fishing that I do, but she'll go out on the pontoon boat with some friends and put some worms on and maybe catch some bluegill or something.
I mean, you ask anybody that you talk to, I don't care what friends they are, when they think of fishing, they think of, drinking a beer on the shoreline with a bobber in the water. That's what most people think, right? Not the competitive fly fishing, competitive bass fishing, stuff like that. Which is okay. That's cool fishing too, if you want to do that. But you're looking for a challenge, and that adrenaline of any competition is a stimulant, right? It's a drug in itself, and I think that's what feeds a lot of us that have been addicted to different things in life. Like when I get out of the Army next year, like, it's definitely going to give me a little bit of the adrenaline rush that I want, because so many people, when they leave something where they felt like they had a sense of purpose and belonging, and then they just go to somewhere else. If they don't find a healthy habit, or a healthy hobby, then that a lot of people find themselves in a dark place, and you know that you're not going to let yourself go back to there ever again.
Yeah. I can tell you that since my mom took me to that fishing spot all those years ago, she struggles with alcohol too. She's an alcoholic. She was my whole childhood. A functional alcoholic, was able to hold down a job and whatnot, but would binge drink on the weekends. And from me being able to better my life in, the 12-step fellowship, she actually followed her way in too, and she's now a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she has over a year sober now.
Awesome. That's awesome.
She's like emotionally present, and she's, like I said, able to come out and help me. She was just in Florida visiting my brother. They welcomed their second child, and she was helping out down there too. So, I mean, like, being able to give back is everything. Like, being able to watch my mom come in and do the same thing is a better feeling.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't hang your hat any higher on being able to help your own parent out, right? Like, we always talk like, yeah, we got you when you were in diapers as a kid, and you're going to end up putting me in diapers when I'm older, and hopefully that's the case for your mom. Hopefully she sticks around long enough. Hopefully she's not in diapers, but if you had to change and you're a nurse, so you can do that.
Yeah. I told her she's not going to go into a home. She can come here and we can fight, and I'll change the diapers for her.
That's wonderful. Do you have an amazing journey? I'm going to turn it over to these guys real quick. What do you guys got?
Go ahead, man. I'll let you ask, and then I've got like one or two.
Well, I remember right. So 2019 was when you started competitive fly fishing?
That's when I started fly fishing.
You started fly fishing, then you went only 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years to the championship.
Yeah, I had the least amount of fishing experience out of anybody.
Until third place.
Yeah.
It is amazing because during that entire time, you're also travel nursing and all over the country. But were you giving out, on your off time when you're traveling, when you're in, you talked about New York or Houston, were you fly fishing too? Were you like focusing on that?
Yeah. So I was in a relationship with the guy. His name was Carl. He taught me everything I know about fly fishing, and he lived in West Virginia, and I lived 3 hours away in Pennsylvania. And being a nurse, I was able to work 2 weeks in a row, which is basically three days 1 week, 3 days the next week, back to back. And then I would have up to 8 days off. So I would work my 6 days, and then I would go down for my 8 days off to West Virginia and fish every single day. Every single day. So that's, I think, how I excelled so quickly, and just the love of it stuck was because I would do it. I spent so many hours on the river down there. It's crazy to think about now and to put it into words, but I loved it. I found my home there. Like, I would always go back to that place in West Virginia, Elk Springs Resort. Big shout out to them. They were awesome guys down there. The fishing was awesome. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, you packed a lot of experience into a short period of time, able to fish for up to 8 days.
8 days straight. I mean,
you figure most folks as they're learning might get 2 days max a week. So they're getting 8 days a month. You were able to get 16 days a month to their 8. So I know you said you had the least amount of fishing experience, maybe years wise, but not everybody can say they were, able to spend that much time in the water, and that's that helps cut the learning curve down immensely. Just being able to get out there.
What's your favorite trout to catch, and then what's your favorite species you've caught over the years? Well, I guess except for your second favorite. I assume.
Yeah, your favorite trout species to catch, and then your favorite non-trout.
Exactly. Thanks.
I think my favorite trout species is wild brown trout. They're very smart. You have to present the fly to them just the way they want it, and then they put up one hell of a fight. And they're beautiful. They're gorgeous. I can't say that I've caught a ton of different species of fish. I've caught a lot of warm water fish, and then some of the crazy fish out of the Ohio River. I caught some big walleye. I did just catch my first wiper, which is a sterile hybrid of a white bass and a striped bass. And I was fishing out of my kayak. And this thing, he was probably like 21, 22 inches long. He was pulling my kayak. He had my 7-weight rod bent over in the water and was dragging my kayak. And needless to say, I will definitely be chasing that Russian.
We need to get you down here to North Carolina at some point, just to go out on some of the rivers that we have here.
Could you imagine rolling up with a fly rod when those big schools of stuff stripers are blowing up in the river?
Oh my goodness, go
down with the fly rod and redfish.
Or redfish, yeah. Redfish. So, have you went head to head with a bear yet?
No, I have not. Luckily, from what I hear, if you're actually in the water, minding your own business, they'll leave you alone. I've seen a lot of bear scat along the way. I have bear spray. I carry a 10 millimeter. So.
Oh yeah. So this is just a straight up fishing drama question. We're all overly dramatic in the bass fishing world, apparently. But in the fly fishing world, what's the biggest drama that you see going on in the fly fishing world right now?
Well, the World Championship in 2023 was held in British Columbia, Canada, and there was a lot of lake sessions, and there was only one river section specifically, and the fish were not spread out; they were just in specific beats. So there would be, if let's say there's 10 women fishing it, one person would catch 20 fish and everybody else would catch 0 or 1 fish. And people were up in arms about it. And it being on the world championship level, like, you can't really change much, But
are you assigned those locations or do you get to choose?
So I was going to ask that when you were talking about the rules. You're like, you're giving your 100, 200-yard stretch of river, and I'm like, well, what happens to the fish there?
Yeah.
So they have what's called a draw, and it's just randomly assigned. So it's luck of the draw, literally, which is, not fair a lot of times, especially on a world level. So our coach for Team USA, spoke up and got a couple of other countries involved and was like, hey, this isn't fair. We need to switch this up. So they changed some things around on the world level to make it more fair. The U.S. ended up taking a bronze medal in British Columbia. And then in 2024 in June, like I said, they were in Czech Republic. The water is different there, and a lot of people were using dry droppers, which is like something that floats on top and then sinks on the bottom. So you're fishing essentially top of the water and bottom water. And they were people were kind of using the top water fly as a bobber and using foam. So Fibs Moosh amended the rules to not allow foam when you're fishing more than 2 flies. So they changed the rules based on that.
So the drama is the same. It's just different technology.
There you have it.
It causes the drama. In fly fishing, it's foam topper flies, and in bass fishing, it's forward-facing sonar. But at the end of the day, somebody's going to be upset, right?
I just want to challenge everyone to listen to Jackie's story before they get up in arms about floating flies and forward-facing sonar. Because to you don't get caught up in the drama, do you? You don't really care either way, or are you pretty active in voicing your opinion?
No, I stay out of pretty much everything. I'm not even really involved with the team getting sponsorship or anything like that. I just enjoy the fishing, and like I said, I have the least amount of experience, so I just keep my head down and do what I love to do.
There you go.
That's exactly what we do here. We don't get too caught up in all the drama in the fishing world. We just try to share the positivity and how the healing aspects and just everything good, because there's when you and I'm sure you're in a lot of the Facebook groups groups. I'm in a lot of the fly fishing face groups too, because my family's Wyoming. I go out and fly fish, so I try to keep up with stuff. And there's drama in there about people keeping and eating trout and doing this and doing that. It's like, man, if an angler wants to go out and catch a couple of trout and fry them up that night, and there's a limit that legally allows them to do that, let them do it. Yeah. And then you'll get people in there like, oh, that's why we don't have fish. It's like, come on, man. Just let people do what they want to do and be decent to each other. And given what your background is, I'm sure that you're just like, yeah, I don't have time for this. There's way more important things in the world than who's getting what beat and using foam topper flies and all that kind of stuff. So,
from a non-competitive aspect, though, I will tell you that a lot of people frown upon nymphing, which is fishing on the bottom with weighted flies. There's the purest dry fly guys, I like to call them. That I caught. My husband and I nicknamed them the crusty dry fly guys. They just like are not open to any change or anything more. So I like to go out there and just catch as many fish as I can right in front of them.
Yeah.
While they're fishing on the top, and I'm pulling them all off the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we do have some things in common.
Yeah. I don't like to nymph. That's like finesse fly fishing. When I go out, we float the river like in a big drift boat, and I like to throw streamers at the bank and strip big streamers. And I kind of might have made fun of a few of those folks who are out there nymphing, but yeah, you make fun of them, but then they're like just reeling fish in there all the time, and you're like, yeah, we floated 37 miles away and caught 4 fish. They're like, yeah, we caught 300 in one hole. It's like, yeah, well, good for you.
It's always a competition. Yeah. Even the guys up in Wisconsin and Michigan that are, fishing for steelies versus kings and stuff like that. You got guys that don't like the steelhead fishermen, and guys that don't like the king fishermen. But
at the end of the day, we're all fishing.
Yeah, we're all fishing. We're all connecting with the outdoors, which is awesome, and it needs to be done. A lot of people disconnect from it as when they're young, or they get too busy with life, or whatever the case may be. And it's also not for everyone too. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's fine. But I appreciate you sharing your story. We appreciate you sharing your story. The final thing that I have for you, and I'll turn it over for these guys, is, the only thing that we have inevitable in life is death, right? So for you in your journey, and it seems like you're just aggressively like, I just want to do more and more and more. Is the medical field the last thing you're going to be doing, or do you see yourself doing something different than that in life?
I'm actually struggling with that question right now, just because I'm a stay-at-home mom, and this has been the hardest transition of my life. I have struggled actually mentally and emotionally being a stay-at-home mom, because it felt like my life abruptly stopped. Like I was just pursuing so much. But it's sort of, I just had to change my perspective. I still do struggle, but luckily I have the people and the help, and I know what to do, and I can recognize when I'm struggling and when I need help, and I'm not afraid to ask for it. And so I want to give my son everything that I can, and I want to be there for him, and I don't, I want to stop, like we said, the generational trauma, and being a stay-at-home mom and being present is an amazing feeling, and I don't want to lose myself in the process. I've always wanted to go to school to be a nurse anesthetist, because it just seemed easy, like not easy, but manageable. There was less emotion involved. You just basically put people to sleep, bring them back out of it. The schooling for that is 3 years, and there's a lot of on-call. And having a family, and, we're talking about having another baby at some point. I had to weigh the options. Do I want to be present in my life for my son, or do I want to continue chasing my dreams and, maybe do the same thing and not be there like my mom was, chasing her career goals to my son. And I'm so afraid of doing that I decided to maybe go back to school to be a nurse practitioner, which doesn't have the same time commitment as it does nurse anesthetist. And even now, after, having that goal in mind and doing some research on some schools out here, I don't think I'm going to go back to school at any time soon. I'm going to wait until he's older. I can't tell you how old, because every time I think about it, I'm like, what age is best to not be as present in his life? And the answer is, it doesn't feel like any time for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't decided right now. I'm not happy being a bedside nurse, because I feel like I can do more, obviously, and it's emotionally taxing, physically taxing. It's a very challenging job. So I'm sort of in limbo here.
That's okay. I mean, I don't think I don't know what I want to do next year. All I know is I have one benchmark to meet, and that's retire, and then I'll figure it out after that. But the beauty of it is you have, hopefully, everybody has time to sit down and digest that thought process, because you don't want to rush into anything. I can tell you that. I mean, I think a lot of times these young kids, when they're growing up, they rush into a college education, they try to figure out what they want to be, and then 20 years later, like, man, I'm wishing I would have done all that. The last thing I got. So I promise, the last thing I got. We're going to go for an hour and a half. So for me, the older I get, the smaller my circle is of friends and everything. For you want to help people, but you also know that there's a level of toxicity where you can't let it be around you or let it be around your family. How do you, if somebody needs help but they're so overly toxic, how do you get them help without introducing them into your life to where it affects your family? And that's not just with drug usage. That's just toxic people in general.
I'm thinking of a specific. Right now, we have a family member going through something. So it's hard to want to help them, but not introduce the chaos into your own life while trying to help them. We sort of are bringing the chaos into our life to help them, but it's family. I think that you have to keep firm boundaries, establish firm boundaries before you decide to help somebody, and then always stick to those boundaries. Never let them go. And realize that you're only one person. You can only do so much. And I can tell you from experience that it wasn't just one person that helped me get where I am. It was so many people that have touched my life along the way. And, to ease the load and, not just bring it into your life, but like have more support there to help you,
Yeah.
Balance it out with other people.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's easy to write people off. It's easy to give them too much help. How do you find a healthy balance? So I appreciate that, Jackie. Pete, Ben, what you guys got?
You done?
I'm done.
Sure. You did, Ben? Okay. Wow. Where is the national? If you're getting ready to fish the national championship, where are you heading?
It's in Island Park, Idaho. We're going to be fishing Henry's Fork and the Warm River and a private lake that I always forget, and then Hebken Lake in Montana.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I guess a follow-up to that. So there's, 4 or 5 bodies of water. Does each competitor spend a part of the competition on each body of water so everybody experiences the different things, or is it completely random where you'll fish?
We all fish each sector, I can't think of what they call it right now. So the way that it's going to happen is we have the two river sessions. You're going to have a morning and an afternoon session, and you're only competing against the people on that section of the river at that time.
Okay.
And then you're going to rotate to the other river, and you're only going to be competing again around, that time on that specific body of water, just to make it fair. Mm-hmm. And then the next day you do the lakes and you switch. Same thing.
Okay. So it's 2 days of competition, or?
Yeah, it's only going to be 2 days of competition.
Do they give you like practice days or anything? Like you get to go a couple of days ahead of time, or?
Yeah, I'm going, I think, 3 days ahead of time, and So in addition to it being individually, they also break it down into teams because you do compete on a team level in the World Championship. So I have a team with 3 other women on it. We're all staying in the same place. We're going to go and practice together, determine what works, go to the different rivers and then possibly a lake. And then we share information between each other on what works, what methods, just so that we all individually do better and do better as a team.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Looking forward to seeing how that goes. Hopefully you have another strong finish. I'm sure you're just excited to get back into competition because it sounds like it's been a little bit with raising the little one and everything. So it's always nice to ease back in and go to a national championship because there's no pressure involved there, I'm sure.
No.
Trey and I are actually fishing our first ever national championship for the bass fishing organization that we fish with this spring. So we're starting to think about that. And, even though it's not a giant deal, there's still, you feel that pressure.
It's kind of a big deal.
It's kind of, I mean, I'm trying to downplay it.
179 of the other best teams, right?
So I don't psych myself out.
But I'm just gonna call
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
So with this competition going up, how do you manage the anxiety that you have with this competition?
I don't think anxiety is really setting yet for me.
Yeah.
I don't fish for a living, so for me, there's really nothing on the line but just wanting to go out and do the best I absolutely can. And I don't know if Pete feels the same. I think the biggest anxiety for me is not the fishing aspect of it as much as this, like, making sure all the logistics are squared away, right? Like, making sure the tires are good, the batteries are good, all the, we got a place to stay, food, all that stuff, like that kind of stuff. To me, preparation is everything. And then once I get out on the water, like, just like you talked about, it all kind of goes away and I'm going to catch what bites. And if it doesn't, then I either made a bad decision or the fish weren't cooperating. I don't know. But that's a great question.
It is, yeah. So at least for me, I think Trey and I balance each other's anxiety or when we start feeling that pressure, like we've never both, we say we'll come unglued or have a breakdown. We'll and so have I, but it's been one of us or the other one at one point in time and we can balance each other since it's a team. It's fully team for us, so we're able to bounce it off each other. But like he said, for me, it's, we don't only have to just go out and fish and have like fishing rods, reels, and baits and all that squared away. We've got a boat with an outboard motor, a trolling motor. I've got 5 batteries in my boat. Trey's got 4 batteries in his boat, or 3 batteries in his boat. I have 4 in mine. That's right, I got rid of one. So like making sure all that stuff's squared away because not that you're dependent on it, but it's all part of how you do and you get into a routine. And when something breaks down in that routine, I'm sure you have a routine, putting your waders on, whatever it is, you follow those steps, and that's kind of what gets you in the zone. When something in that routine fails, it can throw you for a loop for the entire day, and it makes it super hard to recover from.
I'll tell you where I get the most anxiety on the fishing side of the house is when I can't find more than one pattern that works. Mm-hmm. So for me, we might be going in the spring, and that's traditionally when they're, spawning. And I am not a one-trick pony. So I will get anxiety if I can't find another way to catch them besides off the spawning beds, right? I know Pete's a little bit better at that than I am, but I'm like always searching for something different. And sometimes that's good, and then sometimes that can hurt because I may be overlooking some of the most obvious things. So I will get some anxiety with that, though, for sure.
He also gets anxiety when I flip 4-pounders into the boat and don't let them at them, but...
Yeah. It's a different world, but you definitely should, if you're ever looking for an opportunity to come down and just shake it up a little bit, and I know that I want to come do some fly fishing, you should totally come down and do some bass fishing with us. Probably not as exciting. It's definitely not as relaxing. I will say that. I don't think bass fishing, especially when you have a competitive mindset, that I took a couple years off from even fishing bass tournaments because I started getting overly toxic about my competitiveness. And so I was like, I need to stop, right? Because I need to harness the good things that are coming from being on the water watching the sunrise, watching nature wake up, experiencing things that just most people are still sleeping when it happens. You know what I'm saying? And so I felt myself getting like overly competitive, and I knew that I needed to take a step away from it. And then that really helped out this year. I think we fished very free, and just really wasn't overly concerned about anything, and it worked out. So I'm going to be pretty Matthew McConaughey about it. Just I am, you know what I mean?
Well, thanks for sharing that. I think I'm gonna use that in my competition. Every morning remember why I'm there and not focus on the competition aspect of it.
I mean, what's the worst thing that's going to happen besides a bear, right? I'm not going to catch fish, but I still get to be out there and on the water, in the water, or whatever, and be where most people will never even see. Like, I'm okay with that.
There's two things that we took this year that we lived by, and it was control what we can control and be comfortable being uncomfortable. And once we just kind of let that be our motto and live by that, it was like whatever got thrown at you, it was what it was. And like he said, it freed our minds up from the stress, anxiety, whatever you want to call it, around the competition, pressure. And we were able to just go out and for lack of a better term, do our job and what we needed to do to compete at the level that we wanted to.
And the last thing I'll say is, no matter what you believe in, if you believe in God or what, doesn't matter. Like, there's not going to be more that's put on your plate than you can handle, right? And you're a perfect example of that. Your life has been an example of that. I think a lot of ours have, and I think people sometimes just miss that a little bit, and they're like, man, like I was faced with a lot of struggles, but I overcame all those, and so I'm super great. And I think we can't truly be happy unless we're grateful. And so just being grateful for everything we have, like that really breeds pure happiness. So
100% agree with that. Yep.
If it's meant to be, it will be.
That's right.
So, we always give an opportunity for folks to come on to shout out any sponsors, supporters, anything. If there's organizations that helped you, on your healing journey that you want to give credit to or shout out, that folks are going to listen to this and might be dealing with similar issues or need some help. We have pretty large following in Pennsylvania and North Carolina and around the country, but just anybody you would want to give some credit to, whether it be an organization or individual, whether it's fishing or help through your addiction.
Yeah, I think if you are struggling with addiction, Gateway Rehab and Outlook really helped me out several times. They've always been there. And then the Turning Point in Washington, Pennsylvania, the owner, Pat Lutz, is an awesome human being. She gives back so much. That place literally saved my life. Literally. And as far as fishing, I want to thank my mom for always being there and taking me back out there to fish when I was in, the halfway house. It's really what set things in motion for me. And from Team USA, it being the first, this is the first women's team. We're still in the process of getting more sponsors. Right now we have Fulling Mill, which has been awesome. I have some tickets and their prize money stuff. It's great. Shout out to them. And then if you're ever looking to support Team USA for the women, US Angling is always looking for donations for. They're trying to get approved on the Olympic level right now so that it would be Olympics in 2028. They have a story right now on how they're trying to get that involved. They have, I think, 3 out of the 4 committees that have signed off on it. They're just working on the last one, and then it'll be, in the next Olympics, hopefully.
I hope that happens, and then get rid of breakdancing.
So, if anybody wants to support USA Angling, you said it was whatever. Is it USA Angling? Is it just on their website to support the women's team or the men's team, or?
Yep, any of the teams, and I think they have a lot of bass stuff going on too. It's US Angling, so US and then Angling.
Okay. And I'll put the link down below if anybody wants to go check that out. If you want to donate, if you want to see if you can help sway the Olympic Committee in some way, maybe somebody knows somebody. You never know.
Make bass fishing great again.
That's right. Let's get fly fishing and bass fishing into the Olympics.
Yeah.
and then we'll see what happens there. I don't know. Fly fishing is probably more globally accepted than bass fishing.
For sure.
There's not so many countries that have bass in them.
Yeah.
But Jackie, I really appreciate your time tonight, being open and honest with the story. I know there's folks that are going to listen to this and it's going to help. It's going to make an impact on their life, either directly or indirectly. It may be them, it might be somebody that they know, but I know for a fact that this is going to help people. Just hearing what you've gone through and being able to overcome it. I want to remind everybody that's listening that there's always somebody there for you. There's always help. We're always there for you. We've given names of organizations. We give them phone numbers, including our own. Reach out no matter what it is you're going through, whether it's PTSD, trauma-related stuff, if it's addiction, whatever it is, reach out to somebody because your life matters to us. It matters to the world. We need you here. You can see the stuff that Jackie's doing positively. She's impacting people's lives. She's going to be there for her son now and all that, and she gets to share her story with folks, and then hopefully, they'll take credence with that, and it'll help better their lives. I know there's some definite takeaways from this. Is going to help me be a better person, and hopefully help more folks because that's ultimately what it's about. If you guys don't have anything else,
No, thank you so much, Jackie. It was an honor hearing your journey, and we look forward to continuing this friendship with you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me and asking me. I'm really grateful that you did. And then remember when we were talking, I couldn't remember the name of the senior team for.
Yeah.
They're the Masters.
The Masters.
And,
that's much nicer than senior, I guess.
Yeah,
and if you want to share any of my information to anybody that's struggling and wants to talk on a personal level, I would be more than happy to talk with anybody about their struggles.
We appreciate that. I'll definitely plug your public. So I think your Instagram, one of them was public. I'll make sure I plug that so that folks can follow along and reach out to you that way. I don't like to put people's emails or anything out there, but if anybody does reach out, I know that I can share that. I will,
yes.
But I don't want to just put it out there because bots, ISIS will be on you all the time. So, but really appreciate you. Just hang out for a minute. I'm going to wrap the show up, and then we'll say some off-camera goodbyes, and then we'll go from there. So everybody, I appreciate your time. Like I said, all of those links and stuff are below. We put the suicide hotline number and everything down in there. Mike John's number with that FX3 Inc. Or specifically, or veterans struggling. As always, you can reach out to any of the three of us if you need somebody to talk to because your life matters. We love y'all. We appreciate your support. And thank you all for helping to continue to cultivate a culture of anglers helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh God, it's a toad, son. It's a f***ing toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.